This is a little bit of a Dharma story sharing today. One of my anchors since early on in my practice, actually I looked back and I did a BBC on the 3 characteristics of cyclic existence in 2007, I think shortly after I ordained. And I use it, which is the 3 characteristics are it's impermanent, the nature of it is dukkha, and it's selfless. And I've used this as an anchor to get my mind calmed down, turned around, when it totally forgets like what the situation is that we're existing in. And that I get hooked, especially when my craving mind gets hooked into the appearance of just this life. And the expectations that I have about that appearance is a recipe for disaster. And if I don't have those 3 characteristics somewhere in my medicine chest, I can make the smallest thing be the biggest problem. And coming to terms with the fact that my ignorance and my self-grasping is so deep that it's hard putting together what I'm experiencing in any given day here at the Abbey is in fact a playbook for all 3 of them. There isn't any moment, 24/7, everything that happens here is going to be in those 3 characteristics are in play. And when I forget about that or deny that they are true or very important because I am so attached to my way of seeing things, totally invested in the appearance, whatever that appearance is, and I push back really hard against these 3 characteristics, misery ensues. And so I've been thinking about this since, let's see, Saturday, because that's where my story starts, is that I have this picture that cyclic existence is like our swinging doors in the kitchen, right there. If you push on one of those really hard and then stand there expecting that it's not going to come back and hit you in the face, that's cyclic existence. When we look at the craving of the appearance of this life, we're going to do what we want to do. We're pushing against the reality of those 3 characteristics, and we push that door and we stand there going, yeah, this is really cool. I'm getting what I want. Everything's permanent. I'm not going to die. And then it hits the square in the face. That's how I push against these 3 aspects of samsara. And then I get so angry when they hit me in the face. So I've been using these 3 characteristics for this mind of mine that thinks I have control, thinks that things will go as I want and stay that way. Like when I get frustrated about getting old or sick. This is like my koan for 2022, dealing with this aging body and being sick. I can see the 3 characteristics at one level. I'm looking at my body, I'm looking at my mind. Impermanent, oh yeah. I'm like, don't even worry about the subtle impermanence. Grossly impermanent. This body is disintegrating. This mind is getting a lot more confused than it used to be. The nature of dukkha, let me count the ways on any given day. The nature of dukkha, this body and this mind. And then also the selflessness. Who is imputed on this body and mind falling apart? That's getting a bit confused. Who is that? And so when I can use these 3 characteristics when I'm looking at what's coming up for this aging body, it really lightens things up when I can see that cyclic existence is like the arrows in a map. You are here. This is cyclic existence. This is where it is, right here. It's not out there, it's right here. So aging has been my practice, especially this year, and I've been committed to making peace with it. I don't know if I'm going to be successful with it, but I have a very strong intention to make peace with this. But what happened this past Saturday, I had a small experience that shows clearly how often I forget about the 3 characteristics. How I forget about things are impermanent, things are by their very nature dukkha and selfless. And I stand at the kitchen door and I just push, knowing what's going to happen. My wisdom mind, based on my own experience, knows what's going to happen when I push against this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so this is how it unfolds. This is just one day in my life that totally exemplifies this. So on Saturday, I go to get the flu shot with Geshe-la and Venerable Sultram and Dunya. We go to the Safeway, and I talked to the lady there who's giving the shots, and she says, well, because you're 67 years old, you get a bigger dose, because usually old people don't have the immune systems, and so this kind of helps you carry forward and take care of you. And I said, well, what happens if I have side effects? And she says, well, if you've got a good immune system, you might be can feel like you have the flu. So depending on your immune system. So I decided that I wasn't going to have any side effects because I had so much to do. I can't be bothered with side effects. What a nuisance. So I got the shot. And during the rest of the day, I almost forgot about it. I just cruised in, did fine. Next morning, I felt like I'd hit by a truck. And the first thing that happens when I open my mouth, I go, oh. And I could see immediately the fight with reality was starting. I had plans for that day. So I got myself out of bed. I went to the hall, feeling just horrible, saying, okay, you have a body and mind under the control of karma and afflictions. This is the result. So I'm thinking, what do you expect? No big deal. Okay, just take it easy. So I pass on breakfast. I go to my room. I'm gonna rest, right? But I set the alarm because Venerable's teaching on Tara that day. And I have to go to that teaching. I love teachings on Tara. I'm not going to miss it. So I take some ibuprofen and I go to the teaching. Still feeling crappy, but really happy because it was a beautiful teaching. So I make it to lunch. Then the whole time eating, I don't even remember what I had that day because I spent the whole time arguing with myself. I had told Geshe-la that we were going to go to the forest that afternoon. And I wanted to go to the forest. There were things I wanted to do in the forest with Geshe-la. The whole lunch was a debate. Yes, no, yes, no. Just a few branches, just a few loads. Yes, no, maybe so. The whole lunch. And then I finally said, Semke, you don't got it. It ain't there today. Let it go. So lunch cleanup, Venerable Jigme looks at me, she says, go to bed. But I don't want to go to bed. I end up pacing for about a half an hour. I'm just so darn stubborn. I'm just wishing this to change. wishing. I end up sleeping for 3 hours. And I wake up feeling so much better. And I'm laying there going, why do you do this to yourself? You make things worse by fighting reality. Why? How does this serve you? This is not the way to generate renunciation, Semke. This is self-inflicted mental suffering. So the shot was nothing. The side effects, small suffering, but the arguing, the refusing to accept reality, to let go of my small suffering, which is, in the nature of cyclic existence, became such a huge thing because it wasn't lining up with my wishes. It was making me so unhappy. So then I was like, impermanence. You think you can hold this at bay? Dukkha? Your body and mind under the control of affliction, self-grasping, ignorance, self-centered thought is a recipe for suffering. You want them to run your life? You want them to run your mind? Selflessness. Who's upset? Who's having this problem anyway? So if I can recall them, because this happens all the time at the Abbey, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, even in our sleep, things are never going to go the way that we plan. But when I look at things that are unexpected, unhappy, or painful, these small trials and tribulations, I'm not even talking about the big stuff, I'm talking about the little things. If I can look at the situation or experience through the lens of these three aspects of cyclic existence, I can avoid pushing on the door so that afflictions don't arise due to the grasping at a self that is invested in the appearance of just this life. That's the pushing on the door. And then I'm surprised when it comes back and slams me in the face because I'm ignoring reality. So if I can just remember this when these come up, like laying in bed, it was in hindsight, but it was, not 3 days later, it was only the next morning or that late afternoon, so I'm getting better about this. My heart stays open. You can have such a great sense of humor about this because it's just, cyclic existence is so in our face all the time, and it's such a great opportunity to practice, to soften up, to lighten up, to let go, to generate the determination to be free, and to realize that there's nobody on the planet, a living being, that isn't going through the same process, that isn't experiencing the same thing. Everyone, and to use it for practice, use it for filling out that vast ocean of merit, the vast ocean that is required for bodhicitta and for awakening. These little drops, when these trials and tribulations come, we just take them for what they are. and to really get them to ground us in our practice. So if there's any part of the Lamrim or the Lojong teachings that you really have a heart connection to, this particular practice is like it's a medicine in my medicine chest. And I don't use it all the time, as you can see, but I take it and then I remember. So I invite you, if you have any of these little precious medicines in your cabinet, in your medicine chest, please take it upon yourself to really use them, make them part of your bones, you know. And I've come a long way since this aging thing, and I have here little trials and tribulations can help us go a long way on the path if we open the door gently and see how we can grow as we walk through that door, rather than letting it slam in our face.